Slavoj Zizek recently penned an op-ed in RT. It was titled, "Fearing Establishment, Sanders' Leftist Critics Offer Socialism Without Socialism." And when he uses the term leftist, what he means is corporate Democrats, the Elizabeth Warren stripe, and Kamala Harris. So I think you have to be careful when you use the term left nowadays, because it often means neoliberal Hillary Clinton types, endless war, pro-corporate, pro-bank, with the veneer of identity politics, or I should say they use the right catchwords, the correct multicultural keywords. I'm going to get into Zizek's article or op-ed, but before I do, I would just ask that if you like this video, please hit the like as well as the subscribe button. All right, so we're moving toward another election, just like 2016. You'll have all the Twitter wars, all the spectacle, all the entertainment. In the end, it will mean nothing, because the electoral system in the United States is completely compromised. I'm going to get into all that. Although, if by some miracle you're giving a choice between Sanders and Trump, I would suggest you vote for Sanders. Just not that Sanders can save you, not that there is any hope of saving the United States, or I should say the former United States Republic, through the electoral system, but sometimes you can mitigate some of the suffering. And maybe Sanders in some cases might mitigate. I don't think he'll get it, and he's going to get the nomination, and I'll tell you why, although anything's possible. But if he does get it, that could also have its own problems. All right, so Zizek, I saw him speak once in New York at a conference. I like what I heard. I think he's a pretty smart guy. He also did a documentary called Pervert's Guide to Ideology. He's a political or a cultural philosopher. He dealt with, he discussed fascism and various other topics. I thought it was pretty good. Excuse me. So, all right, so the premise of Zizek's article is that these Elizabeth Warren types are going to speak, in socialese, but what they offer you will be garbage. So when Elizabeth Warren says Medicare for All, there may be something presented as Medicare for All, but it will be run by just like Obamacare will be written by the insurance company lobbyist. It will include all the for-profit insurance companies, and you will get screwed on the deal. The other thing he touched on was the identity politics aspect, where he showed that he used Hillary Clinton as an example, and what was her name? Madeleine Albright, the Secretary of State under Bill Clinton. Madeleine Albright infamously said during the 2016 Democratic primaries that there was a place in hell for any woman who didn't vote for Hillary Clinton. And Zizek pointed out that Madeleine Albright was the same woman who starved 500,000 Iraqi children to death and bragged about it. This is identity politics. What she was using the woman, or the Hillary Clinton feminist, female identity politics, saying you got to support Hillary because she's a woman, even though she's committing these horrific war crimes that would have easily earned her a place on the Nuremberg docket. A better example would be Barack Obama, or not a better, but another example there. So you're not using gender, you're using race. Barack Obama, and let me state unequivocally that the African American community has suffered horrifically over the centuries in the United States: genocide, slavery,,, medical experimentation, the Tuskegee experiments. every nightmarish, Nazi-esque thing you could think of has been done to the African American community. So I realize that there has been horrific suffering in that community by the existing power structure. However, what the existing power structure has done is they took, to gain our trust and sympathies, they took somebody who is African American, somebody who was co-opted at a very early age by the CIA, a corporatist, someone who is the epitome of evil, a Hans Frank, if you want a historical equivalent, and who smiles, who's presented as a family man, who's all inclusive to all peoples. And this individual was a Trojan horse. He prosecuted more whistleblowers than anybody in history. He waged more wars than George W. Bush. He took away the remaining civil rights and civil liberties in the Bill of Rights through the NDAA. He's the one who legalized, so he repealed, his administration repealed the Smith-Mundt Act, which made it legal for the government to propagandize to the American citizens. It was illegal prior to that. He gave the Wall Street crooks a $29 trillion bailout. I mean, I could go on and on. This was the most insidious criminal. And so they're doing that now with Elizabeth Warren, local woman, and she tried to play she's part Native American. You have Kamala Harris, who's worked very hard to destroy the African American community, yet using her ethnicity to announce her candidacy on Martin Luther King's birthday. This is a woman who would have done everything in her power to destroy Martin Luther King. And so Zizek, or Zizek, I hope I'm pronouncing his name right. It's one of those Eastern European names. Sorry if I'm mispronouncing. I thought it was Zizek. Points to the identity politics thing out, and how they'll attack Sanders. They'll use the identity politics to neutralize some of the things Sanders is saying about Medicare for All or a livable wage. And, that's what we come to. The corporate Democratic Party is an abomination. Now, here's the rub. Sanders cannot save you. As I said, yeah, Trump or Sanders, vote for him. Sanders pushed Amazon to raise the minimum wage up to $15 an hour. So if you're making $13, that helped. It improved your life somewhat, right? Trump is he's like putting Tony Soprano in charge of, or as the figurehead, I should say, more accurate term. His administration is trying to take away the pre-existing clause in the, I guess Obamacare, whatever you want to call it. He is a complete crook. Sanders has a history of trying to help people. You could argue he's been compromised, but if Sanders is or was compromised, it was a good person who has a history of trying to help the American people, who's been put under extreme pressure. Whereas somebody like Trump, Clinton, Kamala Harris is a hardened sociopathic, evil criminal from day one. But Sanders can't save you. First of all, the chances of, I would not invest much emotional stock in Sanders. The DNC rigged the primary against him in 2016. Why do you think they're not going to do the same thing in 2020? Why would you believe that? And they got away with it. So there's no prosecutions. So if they rigged it then, why wouldn't they rig it now? It worked then. They got Hillary Clinton as the candidate. They're going to do it. They want Kamala Harris. They want Corey, preferably number one, closest to the Gestapo, authoritarian, with the cultural veneer. She's their gal. They like this woman. She's proven that she is a ruthless neoliberal Nazi. Not when I use the word Nazi, I mean authoritarian fascist, not racial ideology. But she is fascistic. So this is a ruthless operator. This is who they want, and they will probably rig the election again. Let's say Sanders gets in. Sanders will be, if he gets in, they do not let anybody in who hasn't been compromised. So if by some miracle he got in, he's already shown he can be pressured. All the money he did raise for the DNC and stuff, the movement, that was all turned over to Hillary Clinton. And I'm not bashing Bernie. As I said, I would definitely vote for him. I will personally, in the Democratic primary, I will vote for Tulsi Gabbard. Even though she has absolutely no chance of winning, she's actually talking about, bringing back U.S. troops from these endless wars. She's too much. There's no way they're letting her in. But I'll vote for her out of principle. If Sanders gets to, like I said, the nomination for Democrat, I'll still vote for him. There might be some mitigation of suffering. I highly doubt it. Like I said, the electoral process is totally owned and corrupted. There is no American president who could save you. It's not going to happen. It won't happen. It can't happen. Okay, let me give you Let me give you a reality check. The last president who went against some of the entrenched power structures was John F. Kennedy. Kennedy had some problems. He came in and he had some problems with the military-industrial complex, the Joint Chiefs of Staffs, that the Pentagon, whatever you want to call this, commercialized endless war machine. What had happened was Kennedy was turned off to them. They put something on his desk called Operation Northwoods. They wanted to go to war with, they wanted to attack Cuba and hopefully lead to a war with Russia. This is in Wikipedia. I mean, this is not conspiracy theory. This is public record, released documents. Under the Information Act, you could get this. So what they wanted to do, they wanted to set up all these false flags, down commercial jetliners, blame it on the Cubans, and go in and attack. Sound familiar? False flag, commercial airliners. Anyway, Kennedy rejected it. He was kind of like a little put off by this. He wanted to take down the power of the military-industrial complex / Pentagon. He also was disheartened with the CIA. They had convinced him to do the Bay of Pigs invasion in Cuba that turned out to be an embarrassing debacle. And he wanted to neutralize their power a bit. He was also the last president to challenge Israel. Israel was developing their nuclear weapons program at the time with Dimona. He was coming down hard, just like Eisenhower kicked the Israelis, the French, and the British out of the Suez Canal. The president could still challenge Israel. And JFK was challenging them acquiring nuclear weapons, rightly so. And you could also argue he was doing some things with the Fed. That's a gray area. I've read things on both sides. I'm not sure he was trying to neutralize the Fed, but certainly that he could have been. With the assassination of Kennedy, when the deep state, I believe with a reasonable degree of certitude, the deep state assassinated Kennedy because he was taking on those entities. Since then, no president can take on the military-industrial complex, the deep state, now it's a privatized CIA, corporatized, it's for profit. So the deep state, the Federal Reserve, or the AIPAC Israel lobby. It can happen. You will get JFK'd. And so whoever gets into the presidency is working within an Overton's window of acceptable behavior. You could only go so far. Most of them go authoritarian, most of them go fascistic because that is their tendency. So even if you had somebody maybe with a good nature like Sanders, there's only so far he can go. He cannot challenge any of those existing things, and he's already shown he can be pressured. He would be eliminated. It's just, he's an old guy. Something would happen if something were to happen to him health-wise. You see all the poisons they have with all the assassinations they do. the deep state would eliminate him, or anybody for that matter. So don't get all, my advice is don't get all crazy with the Sanders thing. Yeah, if he's offered, vote for him. Like I said, I'm going with Tulsi Gabbard for the primary. But if you see him, sure, vote for him, absolutely. He's better than anybody else that, he's certainly better than Trump. We cannot change. The electoral process is gone. Citizens United, Buckley versus Vallejo. There was a series of things, the Powell memo. This is a corporatocracy. The things that I said, though, so after the JFK assassination, the military-industrial complex, the deep state, the Israel lobby, and the Federal Reserve became unassailable. They are entrenched, they cannot be removed. What you had with the 9/11 coup d'etat, the final coup d'etat, you had the elimination of the Bill of Rights completely, and this became a total surveillance state. So, and all democratic institutions were completely eviscerated, including the Fourth Estate and the press. And so, I don't really foresee any opportunities. You may have some window of opportunity if things become too unstable, and maybe the corporatocracy loses some of its power. There may be their own infighting. There may be opportunities for change, but it will not come through the voting system. Even the voting machines. Let's say everything fucked up. The voting machines have been outsourced to private corporations. There's no oversight, and they're not allowed. The results can't be reviewed by outside parties. Diebold is a corporation primarily, which works with the financial corporations and the bank cartels. That's who counts your votes. So, the Sanders thing is it's going to be, it's going to be entertaining. There's going to be a lot of entertainment, but he cannot save you. He cannot stop the coming collapse. He cannot stop the gulags. He cannot stop the genocide they are planning for you, the police state, the fascism, the torture, and the impoverishment, and the third worldism that this country is going to sink to that. You've seen the cons, hope and change with Obama, make America great again. Hopefully some of you are starting to get wise. The presidency is a controlled office. This is the Democratic Socialist Libertarian. If you dig the message, please like, subscribe, share. Feel free to sound off in the comments section. For more information, go to demsolib.com, Twitter, Instagram, @demsolib. Thanks for listening.